Dear ones, we simply must talk about this program. So if you're like me, you probably saw the viral trailer for BAMA RUSH. The trailer essentially hinted at a documentary that was going to explore the life of sorority girls who are moving from high school to college as they rush the University of Alabama. While all the elements for a successful documentary were there, fans were not happy. And many were quick to criticize the director, who fans on Twitter felt had inserted herself into the narrative far too often. However, I watched the documentary, and I used to teach documentary film at the university level, and I think what happened in this particular case is that we were greeted with a documentary that is not the typical style we're used to. Beat has a great breakdown of this for us. In this piece, it talks about how there are 6 very common methods of documentary filmmaking. First being poetic documentaries, which are about experiences, sensory images, they're abstract and loose with narrative. I think a great example of this is Faces Places, about the French artist Agnes Varda. Now, the second type of documentary is the one that you're most familiar with, expository documentaries. Documentaries that almost solely focus on the subject. These documentaries typically have like a voice of God, omnipresent voice. Think about Frontline types of documentaries that tell a story and never involve the people actually making the film. There's also observational documentaries. 4 participatory documentaries is what I believe BAMA RUSH is. And I think the reason that people were so jarred by it is because this type of documentary film was incredibly popular in the 90s, but is not so popular today. In the early 2000s, Michael Moore really popularized the form across films like Bowling for Columbine, Fahrenheit 451, Sicko. As recent as 2009's Capitalism: A Love Story, this form has been really championed. Another famous example of this is the runaway hit Super Size Me, in which a man eats McDonald's food for 30 days to see what it does to his body. The prime definition of participating in the documentary. However, right around the time of those films, pure exposition documentaries like Planet Earth, in which you have an omnipotent voice that's like, "Night on Planet Earth, here we see the blah blah blah." These type of films started to gain traction. The rise of streaming and an endless new supply of documentaries that were being made so quickly. While participatory documentaries of course still existed and are included in this bunch, the vast majority were expository documentaries. My theory is that when a pure participation documentary like BAMA RUSH comes along, in which the director not only talks very frankly and openly with her subjects, but often turns the camera around to herself to connect to her own experiences, much like you would expect from, say, a Gia Talentino cultural criticism essay in The New Yorker. People were quite jarred because they said, what does this director's experience with alopecia and her childhood trauma have to do with the subject of the documentary? And while there's still so much more to investigate, especially the class and race divisions that exist within the Greek system, I do feel like the personal experience she shared was completely valid, related directly to the film. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below.